Take one. I'm gonna leave that in. All right. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about the wedding industry and how it's affecting different parts of the wedding industry, from DJs to florals to dresses to photographers and every part of the wedding. So today we're going to talk to my friends Kristen and Becky. Actually Kristen, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Kristen Rosinski. I own Aliber's Bridal in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Aliber's is the longest running bridal shop in the country, as far as I know. Over 100 years old, and I've owned it since 2010. I'm the fifth owner of the business.
That is a long time running.
Yes.
That is a long time running. So Becky, tell me a little bit.
She looks great, doesn't she?
She looks great.
What'd you say, 104, 105?
Yeah.
I don't know, she looks great. So my name is Becky Geyer, and I am the owner of Floral Affairs in Greenfield, Massachusetts as well. We've been open since 2008, so quite a good little stint for just a little shop. But have had probably, I want to say this is my 25th year in the business, just not owning my own store.
Yeah, that still counts.
For sure.
That still counts. I
For sure.
feel like that's very important. So first of all, thank you guys for being on my channel.
Oh, thank you for having us.
We've been in the industry and we've been together for so many different bridal shows and so many different events. I always gravitate to people that are very like-minded and like-minded work ethic-wise. And to me, that's very important. But you don't just do wedding flowers. You do all kinds of, any kind of floral arrangements. You've got a store in Greenfield, and you're not just limited to dresses, tuxedos, and what else?
We also have in-house alterations and all of the accessories that are needed too.
Yeah, veils and everything else like that.
Veils,
and
headpieces, jewelry.
tuxedos.
Tuxedos and suits. Rentals
Bridesmaids
and
dresses?
purchases, bridesmaids and moms.
And mother of the bride.
Mother of the wedding.
Yep, mother of the wedding.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. All right, so other than that, so the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is pre-COVID to now. Like that 2019 mark, all of us were in business, all of us were running our business, everything was going smooth. 2020 happened and everything took a fall for everybody. Man. Thus far, do you feel like the wedding industry has bounced back almost to the point of where it was before COVID?
No, but it's getting there. COVID definitely was very hard for small businesses to get through. If you didn't have a very, very strong business mind, then it was very, very difficult for any small business owner to get through COVID. We were shut down for 3 months, and we had to fight the state to reopen. So we did discover in our industry that there was an engagement gap. Yeah. And that meaning that people weren't dating during 2020 and 2021. So therefore, the fast track and what we anticipate for people to get engaged is about 3 years, and therefore people weren't getting engaged at that 3-year mark. So we ended up with not just COVID as down time, but also the last half of 2023 and almost all of 2024 as downtime. And unless couples were together for that entire time, or they got engaged quicker than that typical time frame, we were seeing fewer and fewer couples during that time.
I agree. Now, how did it affect? Do you think from before COVID to now, how does it affect the floral? And I know it affected the weddings, that's obvious, but was the flower industry down in that time frame also?
So this is interesting because I was technically only shut down for 5 weeks.
Okay.
However, and the only reason I was able to semi-open, closed door open, was because I had a website and I could deliver. So
good point.
Right, so that was a big difference. However, I couldn't have a staff. So
you were doing everything on your own?
Correct.
Okay.
And bringing in family and kids and so forth to help out, right? Help delivery and so forth. It was the busiest Mother's Day I've ever had in my life because people couldn't go visit, right?
Correct.
Or we all know the nursing home situation, what that was, but we could deliver flowers.
Yeah.
So people knew it was still a thing.
Yeah.
Wedding industry, what took a hit, we didn't have big number weddings, big dollar amount weddings. We had a lot of micro weddings.
Agreed.
So I think that first year I had 28 micro weddings.
Yeah.
Super simple, sweet.
Yeah.
10 people and under, and it was quite fantastic and a little bit more intimate, which personally I loved. I love a big wedding, but I was just happy to be chosen to be even
so you had something to kind of bring some sort of income in.
Oh, without
micro
a doubt.
Or
While
not.
most people had a loss, we gained.
Yeah.
And tremendously gained to where this year, if I compare this year's sales to then, I'm lower this year. I've taken a loss every month, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Except for weddings. I would say my weddings are off the hook this year.
Yeah, I feel like 2020 happened. 2021, nothing was quite opened up full blown. And if you were allowed to do anything, they were still limiting the 6 feet thing like that. And how do you do a wedding with a dance floor with 6 feet apart? Yeah. It just limited everything when it came to that. So I know DJs were struggling, photographers were struggling. Yeah. Everybody was struggling from that. But I do agree with you. Proms too. Oh, yeah. Proms too.
Yeah, no proms.
I had one bride that had a beautiful, spent $3,000 on this dress, and right in the middle of COVID, and COVID happened. She didn't even use her dress on her backyard because she still wanted to get married with her 6 friends and stuff like that. So she still did it. So what we did was we went 2021 when everything opened back up again enough where we can go places. We went to Harkness Memorial Park and we took her dress and we brought it there and we just used it again. Fantastic. He rented a suit and we just, not like a ceremony, not like, we almost like did their formal pictures all over. So she was able to reuse that dress in another way that she still got good images, even though it wasn't the actual day. She was so happy that she did. So
I felt like that was a perk too that I was talking to brides about during COVID. Most brides don't get to wear their dress more than once. Wow. And so this is a perk for you because you get to wear it more than once.
Yeah.
You know, you get to have it for your wedding day, but then also later on, if you decide to have that big reception, you get to wear it again.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people I'm all about more bang for the buck. I want as much as I possibly can for any dollar that I spend. That's just my philosophy, and that's what I want. So if I can use something twice, by all means, I'm going to use it twice. Wedding dresses, I feel like, are the one thing most people don't. And I feel like that's the one thing that people...
Well, unless you're Kristen's sister. She puts on her wedding dress every year on her anniversary.
She can. Not this year because she was pregnant.
Good for her. That's rare. That's rare.
Every year.
Now, my wife still has hers, and it's in a box preserved like it is, but that was 33 years ago. But it's one of those things that you still have. We didn't have any girls as kids, so some people will use those dresses and repurpose them and make like a christening gown out of them also. Some people use those gowns and they redonate them back and they use them for open hearts or something along the lines where they repurpose the wedding gowns for burials and for babies and things like that.
Any babies that are stillborn.
Correct.
There are companies that
I was trying to find the right way to say that.
Yes.
And then angel baby dresses.
And it's really, really cool to see something like that. So going back to that, so now we're going back now we're in 2024, and I do agree with you. I feel like it's better, but I don't feel like it's at the pinnacle of where weddings are going. I still feel like, and I don't care what the industry says, that everybody's saving money and election, and I agree and I understand the philosophy, but I still feel like people are still getting married. Now, are they doing the full-blown mansions and are they doing the full-blown weddings where it's $500,000 weddings? Those we don't see around here in Massachusetts and stuff like that in Western Mass. But I do feel like people, to me, I don't care if we're getting married at a venue that's here in Holyoke or anything else like that. If you just want to go to a park and you want to do something, you can still hire a professional photographer. You can still get a beautiful dress. You can still have a beautiful bouquet. Yes. So what I want to ask the two of you guys, since you guys work so well together and so often together, how do you come up with a bouquet? Do you try and complement what the bride wants and knowing which dress she has? Meaning if somebody has daffodils and somebody has a dress that doesn't go, how do you put can you put a bouquet together to complement a dress?
Oh, of course. I mean, the dress plays a factor. Her body shape takes a factor.
Yeah.
Where the venue is takes a factor. I kind of take all those things together.
Yeah.
You ask for a picture of the dress.
I do. Right? I ask for a picture of the dress. I want to see them in it. Absolutely.
I've never heard of anybody. That's the extra mile right there. I like that.
My mother said to me I should have been Bridal Beck. That should have been the name of my store because I was so into weddings and could have been a planner. However, I'm in Greenfield, Massachusetts, and there's no planners
no budget
in Greenfield,
for a planner.
Massachusetts.
There's just not a budget.
But I want to know all the details.
We'll talk about that next.
Right. I want to know all the details. I want to know the favors and everything. What the cake looks like, what the inside of the venue looks like, where the outside is, what the archway is. I really get pretty detailed with it. specifically what I asked my brides is I want to see 5 of their favorite bouquets. And then I'm not going to match any of those.
Okay.
I want to pull them all together to create her bouquet.
Now the bouquet, the picture they send you, it's got to be a seasonal. So if somebody's in the fall.
Not really.
Really?
Not really. I can get almost any type of flower any time of the year.
That's good to know.
With a few exceptions.
Do you feel like, and this goes along with dresses too, like a fall dress, or I'm sorry, fall flowers are more towards the autumn colors and sunflowers?
No, not necessarily.
No, so it's not. No. See, I thought it was specific to a season that you would create a bouquet. If somebody's getting married in October, November, your flowers tend to, unless the bride wants it, leans towards the fall colors.
No, not at all. We had a couple years back, remember, where almost every wedding I did was blush and white with a touch of burgundy.
Wow.
Right? And how many times I think it's lovely in its own entirety. If I'm showing up to a venue that has an amazing fall foliage view with all the oranges and the reds, and they're showing up with pink and white flowers.
Yeah.
But
if that's what they want.
If that's what they want, that's what I'm going to provide.
Yeah.
Right? And that's great. And that's their vision. And that's my job to create their vision. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a fall look. Yeah. They can have anything they want.
Good point. Dresses. Do you feel like you can find brides that, is there more off the shoulder, strapless during the spring, summer, and fall? Or do you feel like some of the brides have more off of the shoulder in a November, December wedding?
I think that all depends on the dress. It
depends on the person too?
It depends on the person, but it also, so whenever I work with a bride and she's really, really into that off-the-shoulder look, I remind her that it limits your mobility. So if you have a bride, if you're a bride who's 5 foot tall and you have a 6 foot groom, think about the fact that you have this off-the-shoulder.
Molly.
Yes.
Perfect example.
So off-the-shoulder definitely is limiting for your mobility. So you're not going to be able to raise your arms very high. Think about the royalty. If they have an off-the-shoulder dress, they're going to, wave from here. They're not going to raise the roof. So depending on your height, you may choose to go away from that look. But the dress also depends on the fabric. I mean, if it's a heavy satin off the shoulder, that's definitely more of a winter feel fabric because it's a whole lot heavier. I have a dress in my store right now that's an off the shoulder chiffon, which is perfect for spring and summer. So it really depends on the fabric more than anything.
So not a season, it's more of the fabric.
More of the fabric than, I mean, if you have a winter bride, you want a heavier material. If you are spring or summer, you want a lighter material, something that's a little bit more flowy and breathable.
Now, I also think, though, that, and I was at your store working, but there was a bride that came in that was having a beach wedding, right? I think down in the Carolinas. And so that went a lot into play, too, as to where it was going to be, which you don't always know the venue. But a lot of times I think that definitely came into play, what I saw that day.
Yeah.
Now, what about when it comes to, do you do a lot of, I guess I would call them a shawl. And I don't mean a shawl as in like, grandma's thing you throw over your shoulder. But is there some sort of like jackets or something that, because we did a wedding a couple of weeks ago where the bride had sleeves.
Yes.
And that is so rare nowadays. I can't remember the last time I did a wedding that the bride had actually sleeves. And then I found out afterwards they detached. And I was talking, he's like, oh my God, but they were there's such an elegance about the whole dress, and that dress specifically we were talking about, with just that whole lacy part, and then afterwards it just came off. Do you feel like a lot of brides are getting into and it could be just like a trend also, the shoulder jacket of some sort, coverage of some sort? Would you call it a jacket? Do you call it a shawl? Do you call it a wrap? Because it's not long. It's not usually long. It's just enough for their shoulders.
Yeah, it just depends on, I think it depends again on the venue. It depends on the bride, depends on the time of year. A lot. So we have an entire collection of detachable sleeves. We actually just have them. We have them attached to a corkboard around the corner so that we can just pull sleeves as we go. Any dress that has some sort of strap, we can put a sleeve with.
Wow.
So that works really well. Even if you have a strapless dress, we can figure out a way to do something. So I have a bride currently who is wearing she's doing spaghetti straps on her strapless dress. So we actually are attaching a spaghetti strap to that. We are then doing little shoulder bows. So just a little shoulder puff, really cute, pretty for the wedding. For the wedding, we're actually doing a detachable cape. So she's got 3 different looks for her wedding, and it's saving money in the long run because we're not all Kardashians. We can't all have 3 or 4 dresses for our wedding day.
Correct.
But we can all have a different look throughout the wedding day. So, you know, putting some sort of wrap on, putting some sort of detachable sleeve that you can remove later so that you can raise the roof, putting a jean jacket on later in the evening, something like that to keep you warm.
Yep.
You know, you have a couple of different looks throughout the day, which is great.
I like that. So what right now, trend-wise, for a question for both of you guys, what do you feel like is the most popular trend flowers-wise in 2004? And it can be related to social media, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're selling. What do you think? Same questions for you as wise, dress-wise, or do you feel like there's a trend towards a dress, a style of a dress, or anything like that?
Popular trend-wise, well, as far as coloring, I think what we're seeing right now are your browns, coffee flavor, with some muted greens. That tends to be the look for almost every wedding I have this fall.
Okay.
Which is, it's beautiful. We had one this weekend that's just gorgeous. Not really style of bouquet. For a long time, these past 2 years, I've been seeing where a lot of brides were doing big cascades.
Yeah.
Which was popular back in the 80s, right? 90s, big cascades for the brides.
I had a cascading bouquet.
You had
in
a
the
cascade.
90s.
I did too, actually, in the 90s. So, but it's kind of come back and just for the bride and really big and really showy, and everybody else is kind of off to the wayside with maybe a sweet little hand tied.
Yeah.
The other look is a fresh pick garden look, which is pretty normal too. But I would say the biggest trend for us probably has been pocket squares. So
for you?
Pocket
a pocket square boutonniere.
Yeah.
So it slides right in the pocket. So there's no pinning, right?
I love that.
Right? It's so great.
It's just on a little placard.
The only trick is that you have to make sure that the pocket actually opens.
That's a good point because some of them don't.
Right?
Yes.
And
Some of them don't.
My brother got married last year,
Yes.
and they all looked fabulous. However, there was a group of young men that were 14 to 15, and they didn't even have a pocket.
I thought that there was a pocket, but I had measured the adult pocket.
Right.
It didn't fit.
Right.
into
And
the
so
youth pocket.
you are correct. So the youth pocket, that middle age group didn't fit. And then the young little ring bearer, his really didn't fit. And luckily it was my brother, and I could just take them all and look at my nephew and go, Jackson, don't bend over.
Yeah.
Right. And I
It's gonna
could just
fall out?
tweak it.
Yeah.
Right. And just tweak it right on site, which is great. But usually it's like the baseball cards, the sleeves.
Yeah.
That's what I use for a
Got
base.
it, got it,
And so
got
all
it.
those flowers are made on there, and then we dress it up to hide the mechanics kind of thing. But it just slides in. It's beautifully done.
Got it.
And really just fantastic and trendy and different. So it may not be a big thing, but
Yeah.
that's kind of how flowers change, is
Yeah.
that whatever's hot and new, we're going to figure it out and make sure we can make it work.
How about you for dresses wise or trend wise?
Yep. So going off of that and the muted and the greens and everything, my bridesmaids right now are terracotta and sage for the big colors, which, funny enough, 15 years ago when I took over this bridal shop, sage was the huge color. So things that go around come around.
Yeah, always.
For sure. Right now we're seeing 80s styles come back into play. So we're looking
Here comes
at
the mullets.
puffy sleeves and butt bows.
Butt bows.
Yeah, the big
Uh-huh.
bows
Are they literally called that?
Well, that's what I call them. Yes, butt bows.
What's the technical term then?
I don't know, butt
a
bow.
Butt bows. Let's
Sorry,
go with
I didn't mean
that.
to
Okay,
mix
good.
it. Anyway, yes, it's a big ball on your butt.
Classic.
The other thing that's coming back into style right now are basque waistlines, which is the waistline that comes down into a point. In the front, instead of going straight across, it comes down into a point. That's a huge one right now. The new things that are coming into play are really colored embroidery on wedding dresses.
Meaning the stitching is colored?
Stitching is colored.
I have not come across that yet.
Blushes and greens, and some of the ones that I've seen have been very bright. They're not quite what I would like to have in my store, but I have a dress that comes in that colored embroidery, and we can certainly order it.
Do you find that, I mean, and I kind of find this on the floral end, is that anything that happens on the West Coast takes about 2 years
Yes.
to get over to us on the East Coast?
Yeah.
And so we can almost predict
I
what
wait.
we're going to have in
If
style.
you're looking on the West Coast.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Got it.
Exactly.
it dies out or it becomes stronger. So
Right.
naked dresses you will never see in my store.
What is that?
Pretty much see-through.
strategically placed lace applique with nothing underneath, no lining.
Really?
Yes, that was very. Julianne Hough wore a
Yes.
naked dress as a second dress for her wedding.
I don't even know why you would do that, first of all, but I guess if you have the body to do it, I guess you could do that.
I suppose. You will never see that in my store.
No, I don't see that being in our area.
I don't see that being in Western
No,
Massachusetts.
not at all.
I don't feel
So you
like
have to
We're not
almost pick and
California.
choose what you
Yeah.
see from West Coast
Yeah.
to East Coast. But I do think a lot of the trends that we get here come from there.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people that are doing stuff like that, they're finding out a lot of things that they're doing with, and this is the problem. I love Pinterest, but it's
a love-hate relationship.
It really is, because these brides really feel like, oh my God, if it's there, you should be able to do this. And if they can do that, you should be able to do this. And Bill and I did this video a little while ago, is we were cautioning brides that if you have a specific style and you want to accomplish this, show your photographer prior to hiring him, this is our vision. We want to, not copy, but duplicate a very much style like this and doing this. And if they can't do that, that's not your photographer.
Right.
You don't want to
Agreed.
hire them and pay them the deposit, and all of a sudden he's only been doing weddings for 2 years and you didn't know that, and he's very inexperienced with creativity. Now you're stuck.
I think it's the same thing for both of us. So I mean, girls will send her photos of dresses all the time.
Yeah.
Get this.
Yeah, you
Right.
you have really, really great taste, and that dress is $20,000.
And that's, I feel like that's where people are not misled, but I feel like they're uninformed.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Pinterest should
There's a
have
difference
prices.
between
Right.
being misled
Well,
and
but that's
uninformed.
also not their line of work. So
Correct.
I mean, our
Yes,
job
yes.
is
Correct.
Our
to
job is to
educate.
educate.
Correct.
Absolutely.
100%. When they come to me, when they come to you, when they come to you,
For sure.
they walk into my place here, they walk into your place, they walk into your place. And I can say this because I've been to both of your places. There's an experience that they feel when they come into your place. And I love the fact there's an energy there, there's a presence there, there's a calmness there, there's a professionalism, but at the same time, it's so casual
Right.
where I want to talk to you about what you do for your brides when they come walking in, about that whole VIB thing.
yeah.
I love that part of that. And
Agreed.
when a bride reaches out to you, do they reach out to you coming to the store, or do
Two
they
options.
primarily?
Two options.
Yeah.
Because of COVID.
So if they came into your store, do you have a sit down with them?
I do, usually by appointment.
Okay.
Because regular
Yeah.
flower shop life is
Yeah.
so crazy.
Everything's by appointment.
Of course. Didn't used to be that way, but
Yeah.
especially as COVID
Yeah.
hit, we had to do it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
And then I give them the option. Do you want to do an in-person consultation or an over the phone? If it's over the phone, they have to fill out my very long, extensive form, because it's literally every single question I would ask during that appointment.
Okay.
And so
okay.
that way then I can present them with
Yeah.
a beautiful proposal that is tailored to them.
Got it. So if I said, or a bride was coming into you and say, hey, what are my options? You can do the online thing with fill out the form, or you can come in and sit down.
Correct.
When they come in and sit down, do you already have an idea of when the wedding is, a little bit of what she's looking for? So when she comes walking in, she already sees a bouquet
Yeah.
that as soon as she walks in?
Not a fresh flower bouquet, but again, even if they come in for an in-person consultation, I want them to fill out that form, because
Okay,
I want
yes.
to be prepared for
Yes.
when they come in to say, okay, this is what you gave me.
Yep.
This is what we can do. And how does that work? And we're
Yeah.
going to create this wish list and then talk about price later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it works
So
out
you,
pretty well.
what I like about your flower shop is you have everything right there. You can pull something together.
sure.
What if you put greens with this? What if you put baby? And now
sure.
look at the difference. And then you
Yeah.
can show them, if you add baby's breath or greens or anything else like that with your flowers, this is what it's going to look
Correct.
like.
said that
Although we
nasty
don't say
word.
baby's breath. Because
You said that's a nasty word. It's
It
like
is.
a swear word.
That's
Why?
right.
In floral
really?
industry.
It's gross.
I'm sorry.
So baby's breath is not one of our favorites.
Meaning,
Our favorite flower, period. Partly
Okay.
because number one, it's a grocery store flower. We all know this. Number two.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a grocery store flower. Number two, everybody thought they would use it because it was a cheap filler.
It was a cheap filler.
Right? It
I
no longer
agree. It
is.
fills in where.
But it no longer is a cheap filler. So
It's
because
actually
it's really expensive. I mean, a stem of baby's breath can range anywhere from $5 to $8.
is
a
that the
stem.
technical term for it? Is that what it's called?
Baby's
though?
breath? No, gypsophilia.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Right. So
Okay.
when you think about that it's an expensive filler. Well, I could rattle off 10 different fillers that are going to be far more beautiful.
See, that's what I'm talking about. So when somebody comes in and we don't know, they'd be like, well, this is what I was
sure.
thinking. Wow, have you thought of this?
I mean,
take
you know
a
how
look
many
at this
times I did
instead of
baby's
this.
breath in a mason jar?
And you're like,
Baby's breath
With
in a
burlap?
with burlap. That was my first 10 years of business.
All right.
Which is beautiful. If that's your favorite, then I will gladly
Yes,
do it.
that's what I mean.
That is,
but you have other
absolutely,
options
for sure.
if they don't.
sure.
Because we were in the store last week and I saw one of your workers there putting together all of those things and stuff like that. And she's just like pulling them together,
Yeah, she
tying
was
around
working on
like a
eucalyptus
machine. She was
runners. Yeah,
but she was putting
great.
that, getting that ready for the wedding. But they look really, really nice. You have other options when people come in where you can show
sure.
them for feel good.
For sure.
So tell me about when bride reaches out to you, how is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Either way, they can either call or they can book online.
Yep.
We are by appointment
Yep.
again, primarily because of COVID, but now because I really prefer to be able to work one-on-one with a bride. So no matter when you're booking your appointment, you are getting a private experience with us. But you wanted to hear about the VIP.
Yes.
So we do
Because it's all about the experience.
Yes. So
And it means something, right? VIB stands for
it's very important bride.
Very important bride.
As opposed to a very important person. Very important bride, VIB experience. We typically are off on Sundays and Mondays, and those are the only days that you can book a VIB on a normal basis because we do need to have a lot of time to prep for that. We have 2 registration forms that you need to fill out in that case. The first one is just your primary bridal form. The second one is your form for your private experience. Basically, that one just tells me what kind of food you would like to be fed. We do appetizers or desserts. What kind of playlist you would like to have playing while you're in the store. On a normal basis, I just have some love music playing, but if you want country music or you want pop music, if you want Taylor Swift, you're getting Taylor Swift. So, that kind of a playlist. Also, that you are able to tell me if anybody has any dietary restrictions, and then what kind of drinks that you would like to. We don't provide alcohol. We just provide
This is a
non-alcoholic.
BYOB thing.
Yeah, BYOB. So you can definitely bring alcohol with you. And with the VIB, you actually have the ability to bring more guests.
That's what I was going to ask. How many guests can they bring?
Up to 5,
Up
but
to
we
5.
will allow you to bring more. It's just an extra cost because we do have to staff it and we do have to feed you
that
more.
makes sense.
So, but then there are little surprises here and there throughout the appointment. We try to make it very, very personalized. We reach out to a couple of people in your party before you come in and make sure that they're on board with all of it. Make sure that they know what the surprises are going to be. You get a couple of gifts throughout. It's just really, really fun and personalized.
It's an experience.
And we've definitely discovered with the newer generation, Gen Z, that they're really, really all about the experience. So having that at their fingertips is really important. So
I think that's awesome because I feel like this is where a lot of the wedding vendors, people, there's so many of us.
Yeah.
There's so many of us, and we just have to find something different that somebody else isn't doing to kind of separate ourselves. And what you do with the VIBs, and that can be done for a groom also. Grooms can come in and pick their tuxedos out and their suits out, and 5 guys can come, and the best man can bring his guys.
It's actually even easier because we have an online tuxedo builder program. So the bride and groom can actually sit down at home and put that look together. It actually dresses the mannequin on the screen right in front of them. They choose their looks before they even come in, and then when the guys come in all together, it's very easy and streamlined. We do measurements, we do invoices, and then we send them next door to the hangar.
That's right.
Beer and wings afterwards. They just love it. So
Convenient.
fun.
So one of the things that you do, and I feel like, to my knowledge, you're the only one in the industry that is doing this, and kudos to you, is we just did a wedding a couple of weeks ago, and you were there in the room when you were dropping off the flowers, and we were talking and stuff like that. I just did a wedding tip Wednesday about this, is the real flowers that people supply, they're beautiful, but they're wet. So when you take them out, you have to dab the bottom of them to keep them from getting on the wedding dresses. You left napkins and I looked down, and usually I'm running around for napkins. You provided the napkins for that purpose. And I love the fact that you did that, because that's thinking ahead when it comes to that. That makes my job easier, because now I don't have to run for that. And to my knowledge, you're one of the only people that does that. So thank you for doing that.
Think about all the things. Did you see the cool little card that comes with it?
I saw the card.
Protect the dress.
Yeah,
right?
I saw all that. I saw the tag sticking up on the top,
sure.
which bouquet belongs to each person.
Correct.
The napkins that were in there for dabbing your flowers when they come out and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
we don't want any wet spots on any dresses.
No.
That's just no fun.
No, and what
Right.
she's doing that's for her
Right.
business.
That's not all we
it's
do,
an
though.
experience.
I don't think
What
you know
else?
about this other thing.
Maybe I don't know about it.
So, well, back to that a minute. Also, pins go in the back every time. There's no mistake as to what is the front of the bouquet. Because
Good point.
What do you mean?
I-
No, because you say pins.
Pins in the back. So I put pins through the ribbon that go into the stems.
Okay.
So when the bride is holding her bouquet, or her girls, or whoever's
Good
holding
point.
a bouquet,
Good point.
they know exactly where to hold it.
And that's the big struggle.
Right. And I also make it a little bit more one-sided. So that way then it's a clear vision
Yeah.
as to what the front is. And it
Yeah.
also means that you don't have to do any little funky tilting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We used to
Yeah.
have to make them
Yeah.
pull it forward
Yeah.
and tilt. You don't have to do that with my bouquets.
Yeah.
But the other fun thing, and this was a big hit before COVID. I tried to do it during COVID. I couldn't do it wearing a stupid mask. It just doesn't work for me. But we do a DIY for the bride. You probably haven't heard about it. So where a bride and her crew can come in and make their own bouquets.
Another experience.
Another experience. So a tailored workshop just for them, almost like wine and canvas. You bring food, you bring drinks. It's a full-on party, and we make bouquets. We
Why
make
am I just
bouquets,
hearing
we
about
make
this?
centerpieces.
So similar to what you do.
Similar to her.
Wow,
So,
that is awesome.
for sure. And then it all still gets stored in the cooler. I still deliver. I still set up. All things remain the same.
But they're
you're
made by
buying in
them.
bulk.
But they're
Yeah.
made by them under my instruction.
Of course,
a lot of
of
times
course.
I will still do the bride's bouquet on site with them.
Yeah.
But I can teach anybody how to make a hand-tied bouquet.
Wow.
And I mean, I might come around and say, here, let
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
let
yeah,
me
yeah,
tweak
yeah.
that a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's a true experience for them, which
It's
is
like
great.
somebody going to a wine and sip and paint and
Exactly.
sip. You know, here's
Exactly.
the canvas, but
Yeah,
sometimes
right.
you don't know what.
And I do recommend the wine because it kind of takes the edge off, right?
for you or for them?
For them. I mean, I'd like to have a glass of wine. I typically don't work. Well, I mean, I do drink and work, but it's usually only during holidays.
got it. Got it.
Which is fine, but it's a lot of fun, a totally different experience.
I love
There's
that.
usually at least one crafter and a group of friends where it makes it
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Actually, we did a DIY party for their wedding.
Uh-huh,
And actually, his wife grew most of the dahlias that
Who's-
we
yeah,
used.
exactly,
Right?
exactly.
So, and it was a true, good, fun experience that just made it fun. And
That
you don't
is
have to
awesome.
do all of it. We could pick and choose.
Yeah.
And you can say, hey, I just want to do centerpieces
Yeah.
with my crew. Great. And that's what we'll do.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
I knew about
yeah.
hers because she was always talking about the VIBs. I never
Yeah.
even, and that is an
Yeah.
option that brides have when
For
they reach
sure.
out to you.
For sure.
That
And
is
that they
awesome.
can check that off right on the form too if they're interested.
That
So,
is really that is really awesome. I love the fact that, and I feel like there is a lot more people that would love to do the DIY, but they just don't have the time to do the DIY. And I feel like what you guys do, it's not doing it yourself where you just kind of like, here, no instruction, go over there.
Right.
It's come here, bring your bridesmaids, and we just
do it together.
Hands-on.
do it together.
Yeah.
I think that's
Just
so much.
makes it more of an
So
event.
they still feel like they had a part of it, because
Exactly.
I've heard so many stories about a bride staying up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning the night before their wedding because
so
they were
much
still
stress.
trying to put all their
Yeah,
flowers
because
together.
They thought that DIY
because-
would be easy.
Exactly.
Or they're
exactly.
going to grow all their own and pray to God that they
Yep.
all came up. And then they go on a search 2 days before and find out that
Or-
the supplier is closed because it's a long weekend.
Or the Amazon package didn't come in time,
Agreed.
and all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
agreed.
and
Or Costco forgot to order it.
Or there was a hurricane in
Or
Florida.
there was a hurricane in Florida and no planes could come in and get through customs. I mean, there's so many
variables in there.
Definitely
Variables in
right,
there.
right.
Perfect. All right. I've never done this before.
So
Yes.
can I criticize? I shouldn't say criticize.
Criticize.
I should say something about the photography, because didn't we want to talk about a
Oh
couple
yeah,
things when
but
it
he
came
had
around?
questions. It's
He
okay.
did. We can question him back, right?
Oh.
So
I was.
right.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Right. So don't use the word criticize.
It's not criticize.
Okay.
No.
So,
No.
because this is not what that's about.
No.
This is about, so there's always somebody in another industry that can say something about another vendor.
For sure.
Okay, a DJ can say something about another DJ, or, oh my God, that photographer
Right.
was the worst, or whatever. And vice versa, bride
For
people,
sure.
we can have the most beautiful dress. If I don't photograph it right,
Agreed.
that's one of the things.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm a little nervous, but
Oh, no.
okay,
Oh,
go ahead.
dang.
Don't be
nervous, no
nervous.
being
Don't be
nervous.
nervous. Well, sometimes I think when we each have different vendors, the more that we know about each other's shop, the
Absolutely.
better service we can be to each other.
I agree.
Right?
I agree.
Which is great. So I think we were talking about second shooters. Weren't we talking about second shooters?
I don't think
Having
so.
someone.
Mostly it was just observations with regard to some pictures that we have seen, and and paying attention to the little details. So what I've taken to saying to brides is make sure that there's one person in your crew that pays attention to the details, because a lot of times some people in the crowd or the photographer may not catch those details that you want caught, such as the groom having his pants pulled all the way up so that we don't have any white belly showing, or pulled up so that we don't have any bagginess around his ankles, the bride's necklace being straight,
And not having the clasp showing.
Right.
Those type of little details.
little details like that, having the bouquet down where it belongs instead of up here at her chest.
She feels like it's a microphone.
Right.
And-
Well,
and
it's also
a nervous,
security thing.
it's a
security
clutching,
thing.
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of nerves and anxiety?
So it was more going to be my question for you, was your attention to detail with your photography. Because in some cases, I look back at photos, and not necessarily even mine. I'm on social media all the time. I'm on those pages all the time. And these are questions that come up. I definitely have seen recently a post by a bride saying, "Oh my God, all of my pictures have my necklace crooked and how do I fix this? Because it's crooked in every photo and I hate it and I can't look past it. How do I fix this kind of thing?" Right? And there's really no fix for that. I mean, maybe digitally,
Except for Photoshop,
but,
yeah.
Photoshop,
but
for sure.
oh my gosh. And so, that was going to be a question for you, really, like how, like, I know that you're super detail oriented. So do you catch those things on a normal basis? Are those things that you
Do you
know
have a helper
to
that
pay
frames
attention
with you?
to?
Do you?
That is a good question. I ridiculously scan for everything.
I think we saw that this morning here,
Yes.
which is great.
It is so hard to be like that 8 hours of the wedding. Your mind is just...
you get very
So
fatigued.
when
I'm
I have a
sure.
second shooter with me, I look and scan at everything that I can possibly look at. So the first thing I do when I meet the guys, "Hey guys, my name's Ron. This is my second shooter." We introduce ourselves, say, "Okay, first thing we want to start with is, gentlemen, please check your own flies." And they laugh, ha 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 ha. And they
Yeah,
go,
well, somebody
then it-
inevitably has one down. Right?
one.
Right.
Always
Always.
one.
Oh my goodness.
Bridesmaids, do you have a
Hair ties. Hair ties,
or
bracelets
your
we keep.
Fitbit?
Yep. I feel like a lot of people keep them on no matter what, and I can't tell somebody to take it off, even though it's like I see it. The more I make and draw attention to the fact that it's there, because it's like one of the bridesmaids, and she's like, "Well, I still want to wear it," and the bride's like, I don't care. Really, she just doesn't want to make her take it off.
Right.
Hey, the good news is most bridesmaids' dresses now have pockets.
I'm hearing that. So going back to your original question is, as I try to scan, I'm always looking at ties being straight, flies being up, belts being done,
Yes.
pants being up, flies being up, jackets being pulled, one button on the tuxedo, one button. I did a whole Wedding Tip Wednesday on that. One button on the tuxedo. I try to. And then my second shooter's also doing the same thing, like, because he's off about 6 feet, so he sees things from a different view. So sometimes he'll notice that something's, the jacket, the lapel is sticking up, but to me it looks like it's straight. So we cannot see everything, but I try as much as I possibly can to see as much as I possibly
we can
can
ask.
to do that, because it is so hard. My biggest thing, listen, gentlemen, cell phones in the back pockets. Nothing in your front pockets during the ceremony and or the formals. Do not hang your sunglasses.
Or inside your jacket.
Yeah.
For goodness sake, there's a pocket
You can
there for a
still
reason.
see the jacket
Really?
going like this.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So I tell them to
Oh,
put it in their back
interesting.
pockets. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
depending on-
again,
I'm
my
sure
perspective
depending
That
is
would be a good tip for you to
It's-
pass along
Yeah.
too.
it's just that bulge sticking out
Sure.
like this, because glasses are not clunky. They're not flat. They're usually sunglasses. Most of the time Oakleys. There's just a bigger, bulge underneath the jacket like that. So no cell phones in the pockets, no keys, no car keys, no wallets, no flasks. Put everything in your back pockets. Well, I can't fit everything back there. Then don't even have it in your pockets.
Yeah.
Put it someplace else. You don't need it with you. Don't hang your glasses on the outside of the pocket hanging down. One guy always wants to wear glasses and the other 5 guys don't have any. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You got either everybody has glasses
Yeah.
or
Or
nobody
you
has
don't.
glasses.
Agreed.
That's it. If your glasses are like mine and they tint, you obviously keep your glasses on. That's the exception to the rule. When it comes to dresses, any hair ties, take them off. Fitbits or anything like that, I always recommend that you guys take them off. When they do, they got a big sunburn, so they got a big suntan. So that's when we sometimes, that's harder to fix than so we leave that. But that is a really good point, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. I feel like people sometimes don't look at themselves and don't realize that your shirt is almost untucked. I did a wedding a couple of weeks ago, and the dad of the groom had a, not wardrobe malfunction, but something happened where something wasn't working with the pants. And he came walking down the aisle, and there's the big white front of the shirt hanging out down the front of his pants.
Oh, man.
boy.
He's walking towards me. I can't tell him now.
Right.
Yeah.
There's like 75 people on both sides. I can't stop the procession now
No, you can't.
and say, hey, tuck in your shirt. He had to literally go right on by me. He stood over there and sat down. Afterwards, we had to address it. Then he actually left and went to a store during the reception to go get another outfit. Something happened with it. I don't know what happened with
There
it.
was obviously a malfunction.
He didn't make it back in time for the announcement and the procession of the bride and groom coming in. So the mother of the groom had to walk in by herself.
Oh, gosh.
So you see what I'm saying? There's certain things like this.
That's hard.
Try the outfits on at home before you put them
For
on.
sure.
If there's something wrong, catch it. Don't forget your cufflinks. I can't remember how many people have forgotten their cufflinks. So going back to that, the long answer of saying that, I do my best to try and pay attention to all of the details. We really honestly can't find everything.
Yeah.
Because you're literally scanning, going like this for 20 minutes just to make sure it's like, okay, that looks good. Click.
Clearly, you have your list.
Correct. My list is in my head.
Yeah,
I
but-
look for anything my eye goes to.
But to us, it's
Yeah.
really, okay, so these are the photographers. The photographers are the detail
Yep.
people. So
Should be.
So they should be the ones catching these things.
Yeah.
You're the one looking through the lens of the camera. You should see that. You should see this glaringly obvious issue.
Although one of my best friends, I call him my BFP. He's my best friend photographer. He is a very documentative,
yeah, he's a documentary
right?
photographer. Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
So anything in the space, that's what'll be on camera. And he'll,
You don't
he'll
want it
show
in
me
the space?
something, and I am
You
like,
need-
dude, what's with the water bottle? And he's
Oh.
like, nope, I flat out tell them what is there will remain in the photo. So you need to
I
make
see
sure
the
that your
style.
space
The only
is
time
clean.
I do that is in the bridal suite when it's as much chaos and everything else going
yeah, for
around. That's
sure.
the
Really
only
chaotic.
exception because
Sure.
I can't move everything. Where you going to
Yeah.
put it? That is the exception. So
Yeah.
I will either shoot lower and shoot upward so I don't see the things being on the ground, or shoot tighter where I'm not seeing the things in the
Right. Yeah,
background.
those bridal suites can be crazy, for sure.
You're right. There is a lot of things that people really should be attentive and aware of. I pride myself in trying to catch as much as I possibly can. One of
That's
my
a
biggest
lot.
things is if somebody's wearing a necklace, if I see the clasp right here, move the clasp.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I didn't even know that. Hair ties are the big thing. People don't even realize they're on their wrist. To me, it's a hair tie. Not if it's a friendship bracelet, we keep it. I got no problem with that. But if it's a flat out hair tie, we take it off. So, great question.
Once you
I'll
get
try.
to the reception, all bets are off.
Do you find, just out of curiosity, because I see this in my business, I'm sure Kristen does in hers as well, is that we find that people want things for free. For instance, my wedding this past weekend was the photographer asked if you had extra flowers that they could use to do a flat shot. So they're going to take their shoes
Yeah,
and their
flat lay, yeah.
right,
Flat lay,
so
yep.
a flat lay, which is beautiful. However, I have to buy those flowers, so they're not really extra flowers. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So
I've never heard about anybody asking.
yeah, we hear it all the time, even with cakes. Oh, did you bring extra flowers for the cake? Well, no, the bride didn't order any. Did you bring in extra flowers for the photographer for a flat lay? No, the bride didn't order that. And so I've heard this a couple times that brides will say the photographer said you'll have extra, and I'm like, well, I mean, and especially with being a full service retail, the extra, which I always order extra to make sure I'm covered, but that then goes into the flower shop abyss. It's
Correct.
not like I have to use everything because I'm an event florist.
Yeah.
I find it that people usually will ask for something extra and not expecting a cost to come with that.
No, I feel like the only time people ask me for anything is they'll say, I'm looking for the 8-hour package. This is where it's going to be. And they got to go through a detailed questionnaire before I even give them pricing or anything like that. But then they were like, oh my God, okay, that's perfect. Did I mention I was a military and a police officer and first responder? Is there a discount with that?
Oh, yeah.
that's usually what
Right.
they ask for
Right.
after I've already given them the price, kind of
price,
thing like that.
for sure.
But I've never had anybody, I've never asked for anything extra from anybody. When I do flat lays, it's the invitation, the rings, the shoes, and whatever's there. I use your flowers
Right.
to put their
Bouquet or
rings
boutonnieres
in
or
their
whatever.
flowers
Right.
that you've already, I don't ask for
Or lay
extra
the bouquet
flowers.
next to
Right.
it,
Yeah, or later, but I put I literally
Right.
put your flowers that I get from you, and I put the
Yeah.
rings inside of that, and I take a shot of your bouquet
You'd
of
be
flowers.
surprised how often I hear it.
Wow, that is really weird.
That-
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, between that and a cake.
No, so nobody's ever asked me to stay later for free. Nobody's ever asked me anything like that. So
That's fantastic.
that's a good
for
question.
you.
Yeah, I don't supply anything though. Everything I
Right.
do digitally. Nobody's ever asked me for. No, not even an album or anything else like that. No, so that must be just like an industry thing for any photographer to say, hey, can you ask the florist for extra flowers? That's a weird.
And I was like, I can bring you an extra vase, but there comes a fee with that.
Yes,
So
and as there should be.
right, yeah,
Good. All
which
right.
I'm happy to do, but sure.
All right. Any other questions? Any other things we want to talk about industry-wise, wedding-wise, bridal dresses-wise, flowers-wise?
I don't know. I mean, you had said something about wanting to talk bustles.
Bustles?
Yes.
Bustles and pocket
yes.
squares.
I feel like nobody. Do you, as a wedding dress person, teach and show? And I already know the answer to this, but for some reason on the wedding day, the people that are supposed to bustle are not around. Anyways, you show them how to bustle the dresses.
We do.
You show, and do they record that? Do you record that?
Either.
Okay.
Either
so
or.
they don't leave your place without knowing how to bustle, right?
The only concern with that is that my seamstress is semi-retired. So the only time that we actually do any bustle training or button training is at the end of alterations when the bride is picking up.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if we are not doing the bride's alterations, it's out of my hands.
Ooh.
So that's a concern.
So they could have bought
Okay.
the dress from
They
her,
could have
got
bought the dress
altered
from me, got it
elsewhere.
altered somewhere else.
Okay, but if
In
they
that
bought the
case,
dress
it's out
from
of my
you
hands.
and they got it altered by you, yes, they know
Yes.
how to bustle it.
Yes, on their
Now, do you
on
do
their
one
final
person or do you
fitting.
do two people?
Doesn't matter. They can bring the maid of honor. They can bring a mom. They can bring a bridesmaid. Doesn't matter to me. Whoever comes, I show them how to zip, clip, button, fluff, and bustle.
Okay.
So bustling, it just depends on the dress and what kind of bustle it is.
Yep.
However, I do have a YouTube video up
Okay.
to show people how to do that as well. So I
Perfect.
can send that out to
Perfect.
them no
Perfect.
matter what. It may
Good.
not be their dress, but it definitely gives them a, kind of a basic.
That's all they need.
But yeah, I mean, nowadays, the dress might zip to the waist and then buttons from there to the top. I always suggest that you have a crochet hook because that helps to button things a little bit easier if you don't have fingernails. But then also some of those buttons go all the way down the zipper
Yeah.
and they also have the elastics. In which case I highly stress having a crochet hook on hand at the end of the night because nobody wants man hands pulling his jackknife out and cutting you out of your wedding dress because he will not be able to get those buttons undone.
Good point.
The reason that I show people how to fluff the train and where to fluff the train is because that's, you're in the middle, as a photographer, you're in the middle of actually photographing that wedding. You don't need to be the one to fluff the train down the aisle.
Yeah.
So once the bride gets up the
I do.
aisle, and yeah, I know,
I'll be
but
honest
you
with
don't
you, I
need to. And that's the thing, like that's something that I'm now training. So I actually show them, this is like kindergarten. It's like the parachute in kindergarten. All you need to do is
One
lift
good
and
waft.
drop. And I at this point, I'm always saying, fluff it down the aisle towards the photographer because I went to a wedding last year and I watched the maid of honor just bunch up the train and toss it behind the bride towards the
During the ceremony?
towards the officient. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they just bunched it and tossed it behind
Yeah,
the
there was
bride
no
instead
fluffing.
of down the aisle. And I couldn't even believe my eyes. Like, okay, we need a good picture of this train. Let's
Wow.
fluff it down the
Yeah.
aisle.
I have
Yeah.
never seen that.
But I mean, I guess to Ron's and what Ron does, maybe the photographer should have jumped in and fixed that. And there was a second shooter there that day
There
as well.
was, yeah. So that
I wouldn't
yeah,
have done
if
it.
You
You wouldn't have?
wouldn't
Nope.
have fluffed it.
Because it would have drawn too much attention away from what was happening for me to go over there and pull something out. To me, I agree with you, but at the same time,
you don't disrupt.
Correct, because what would have happened is, oh my God, what is that photographer doing? Why? That's not his job. Why is he doing? And it would come off as being more detrimental and worse for letting it. So that was, they cannot possibly get mad at the photographer for not doing something about that.
I don't think she got mad at all.
Here's what I see.
She has no idea.
They come walking out of the back of the, wherever they're walking out of the back of, they get to the end of the aisle. They give it one good, actually at 30 feet away, they give it one good waft, the wedding coordinator.
Somebody. I always say, listen, and your bridesmaids are going to be down there. Your mom's already going to be down there. You need to have somebody at the end of the aisle who is in charge of that.
And I say to the maid of honor, it's your job. When she comes down that aisle, after she kisses dad, after she grabs her husband's hand, she's going to give you her flowers. So now you've got 2 flowers. How are you going to dress her dress? Hand both of the flowers off to the next person. Get down as low as you can. Fluff that dress out towards me. Stand back up. Grab the flowers. That's your job to do that. I can't do that.
Yes.
What I do is I'll make them come walking down. So it needed another good waft once they got to where the people were. So as they're walking towards me, I get a beautiful shot of them walking at me, and then I'll step aside and I'll say, pause right there. And I go around to the back. I give it another good waft, and then I say, okay, go ahead. And then they start walking. Now the dress is fanned out a little bit more. I get down really low and I shoot upwards, and the beautiful dress is all there with the 2 of them like that. That's what I do.
Yes.
I also, when the flower girls don't know how to throw flowers anymore. They just throw clumps and they come down. So I did this last weekend at a wedding, and the little flower, she was only 2 years old, 3 years old. So it's understandable why she didn't get it. Everybody's around. So she took one, and then went down to the front over there, and that was it. So I looked up, and I went like this to the wedding coordinator, and went like that. I went over and grabbed the basket. I went right to where the JP was standing. I grabbed the flowers, dropped them out, grabbed the flowers, dropped all the way down the aisle. So now when the bride walks in, she sees all of the flowers that the... One person come up to me at the end of the night, and she's like, I have never seen anybody take the initiative to go up there and do that. She goes, kudos to you. I said, well, that's the shot that I need, and the bride wants to see the flowers. She goes, yeah, but you could have just left it the way that it was. She goes, I like your attention to detail. So everybody's different, and what people see is different and stuff like that. But to your point about the dress going behind, I would have not interrupted anything, because at that point, it's more of a distraction and disruption, stopping doing that. That is, at that point, that's on the maid of honor that was supposed to be moving it. That's on her, and the bride cannot get mad at me for something like that.
No, agreed.
When it comes time for formals, back out of the way, women. We're fluffing that thing, we're getting that thing, and we're going to fan it all out. And I tell people, give it a good waft, give it a good waft, and then step back out, and then a couple little spots over here, step back, click, click, click. It just makes for a better picture.
Yeah, absolutely. The one other thing that I am really serious about talking with brides about is that this is the side of their face that is going to be facing their guests. The right side of their face is going to be facing their guests when they're up at the altar. This is the side that you want the detail on. So if you're doing an asymmetrical look, or you're doing any sort of hair clip or anything, put it on the right side of your head, because that is the side that's going to face your guests. Otherwise, if it's all the way to the other side, you're going to look bald in your pictures.
Good point. Now, what if they do it in the back?
Back is fine.
Back is fine.
Yeah, back is fine.
Yeah.
You just
so it
don't
depends on their
pull all the way
hairstyle.
Here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just basically how they have their hairstyle is what it is. Okay.
If it's asymmetrical, pull it to the right.
Okay. And that makes sense. And I feel like people just, they look in the mirror and how they do their hair, then they realize they're on the wrong side in the pictures, and there's nothing you can do. I've had a couple of weddings this year already where they have reversed that. And the brides were on the other side, and the grooms were on the other.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know where the tradition came from, where the brides were on this side, grooms were on this
You
side.
should look into that.
Yeah.
But I've noticed a couple this year, and the reason why the bride liked this side of her body.
Oh yeah.
And
I
come,
photograph better.
and 100%.
Welcome to the era of
100%. And
But to be honest, that's another good thing to put on my form.
What's what?
On my wedding form, which side of the aisle are you standing on? Because if I'm doing an archway,
They
that
wouldn't
will
even know at that
determine.
point.
she's right.
They won't
She's
even
right. They
know.
probably won't
but
even
it
know.
might
No,
give
until
them
they get
some
to the
forethought
rehearsal.
to think
Exactly.
about that.
If they say, why do you need to know that? Oh, because I need
Right.
to know. Oh, I never would have
Right.
thought of
Yeah,
that. When
it's a
people
great-
sit
it's a
down
great
with
thing to
me,
think about.
they're like, I never would have thought of that. So that's my job, is to bring things to your attention, not to nitpick, but
No,
just to bring
yeah.
things to your attention,
Yeah.
like, did you think of this?
Right.
Did you think of
Well,
that?
and
Let's talk about this.
And literally, you get the people looking at you and going, "You've done this once or twice, haven't you?" Yes, I have.
Yes, and
Many
that's
times,
where they
yes, I
see experience, and that's where people see the benefit of hiring somebody that might be a little bit more expensive and or a little bit more money or whatever. I feel like